We are back, and this is another episode, the 75th, the Quarter Quell episode of the We Are One, You Are Two PlayStation podcast. I am your host, as always, Rob Fanzo, joined once again by a man who survived the heat wave of Chicago, Matt Rhodes.
Man alive, episode 75, ladies and gentlemen. Hey-o, how you doing, Rob?
I'm good, how are you? You survived, right?
I did, barely, but I
Barely.
survived.
It was tough sitting in that apartment with that air conditioning, wasn't it?
That's right, it was.
Wow.
I did actually venture out.
Oh, did you?
And it was stupid of me. It was stupid of me to do so.
Okay.
I went to the store like super early in the morning when it wasn't like super hot. It was only like 80 degrees, but that was like at 8 a.m.
Oh, okay.
And then one of the things that I had purchased was cracked. Like the packaging was cracked. So I was like, well, I want to eat this, but not if it's unsealed. Not if not the seal was broken. So I was like, ugh, I guess I'll take it back. And whew, it was a scorcher.
I bet. I know it's been hot here, but not nearly to that extent, which is kind of funny to me, considering I'm used to that kind of stuff in the.
Well, it was like heat warnings, like heat indices upwards of 110 with the humidity.
That is crazy garbage.
Yeah, it was crazy garbage. You're right.
Well, good stuff. Well, I'm glad you survived and were able to join us here today to do this.
Me too.
So we got a great show lined up for listeners. First, I do want to mention, if you like what you hear, head over to iTunes, head over to Apple Podcasts, and give us a little 5-star rating. We really appreciate that. Keeps our name in the conversation. Leave a review, and certainly I'm going to start, if I start seeing reviews on Apple Podcasts, I'm going to start reading them out on air. So if you'd like to have yours read, leave us something nice, and you'll certainly get read out at some point during the podcast.
Or don't, and then we'll chew you out.
That's right, yeah. And then we'll confront you from behind our mics.
That's right. From behind the mics, we will confront you.
But either way, check us out there. Check us out on Twitter, of course, at We Are One You Are Two. Check us out at Instagram at We Are One You Are Two Gaming as well. And Matt, I also streamed last night at 10:30 at night as well over at We Are One You Are Two Games on Twitch TV.
You did?
I streamed me taking apart my PlayStation 4 for the very first time and cleaning it.
First time? What?
Yeah.
First time ever you've taken apart your PlayStation?
Well, I've taken the hard drive out, right? But that's just the top that slides
I guess,
off.
yeah.
I actually
You're right.
had to buy a particular screw driver fitting, and I had to take out about 10 or 11 screws last night off the bottom of the console. I actually took out the power supply and everything and cleaned the fan, cleaned next to the fan, cleaned around the power supply. It was like a full, 15-minute operation of cleaning. And so I live streamed that last night. So shout out.
I'm sure it was exhilarating.
It was. It was very thrilling, especially, when I got halfway through it and I couldn't remember where the other screws were that I had to take out. But I got it done. I had some company, so I appreciate that. And so that's over on twitch.tv/We Are One You Are Two Games. I went ahead and cleaned it. So if you've never cleaned your PlayStation 4, let me tell you something, dude. There is a lot of dust.
Yeah.
Oh, it was.
What was the special thing you had to get?
It's called a Torx security screw.
It looks like a crazy star, right?
Yeah, it looks like it's a star, but it has a hole in the middle of the bit because the screws on the bottom of the PS4 have a little post in the middle of the screw.
Right.
So I didn't have that. I had to borrow one, and then I decided to end up purchasing it instead. And so I cleaned it. It's honestly like 10 minutes to clean it out, and I fired up Vampire afterwards last night, and it normally makes me sound like a turbine, jet is taking off.
Turbine jet? Like one of those hats?
Yeah, like one of the hats taking off. But it usually sounds like a turbine taking off. And usually about 2 minutes into the game, it went a whole 20 minutes before it started to get loud, and it never got as loud as that. And so I am so grateful.
It's amazing.
Yeah, well, it's a launch PS4, so I can only imagine what yours looks like too.
I mean, I've since upgraded mine.
Oh, that's right. You have.
That's right.
But you should still clean it out.
I mean, it's still pretty old. It's Battlefield 1.
Battlefield?
Or, Star Wars Battlefront.
Oh, Battlefront. Battlefield 1 is pretty old, but...
Yeah.
I didn't think the PS4 had a version of that.
No.
So, yeah.
My bad.
You should take it apart, though. It's 10 minutes. It's real easy to clean. I highly recommend everybody do it. You're going to avoid the warranty by peeling some of the stickers off, but honestly, if you've had it for more than a year, who cares?
Yeah. Well, what you should do is you should mail me the little bit so I can unscrew all the screws.
Oh, yeah,
and then I'll do it.
Well, actually, if you have a flathead screwdriver that's small enough, you can actually wedge it in the star shape and turn it without doing it. I'm too OCD, and if I strip something, I'm gonna be super mad. You know what I mean? I know, I hear you. So anyway, we got a great show lined up for people this week. We'll move on from. But I highly recommend you check out any cleaning video. It's amazing how much you get out of there.
Yeah,
and it's amazing how much better your PS4 will run afterwards. You know, I'm almost up to 60 frames per. No, I'm kidding. We've got a great show lined up for people. We're going to talk about the Avengers and whether or not they have an Avengers problem. We're going to highlight, and I don't know if you saw the rumored PS Plus games. I want to talk a little bit about that. And then it's not totally video game related, but I did want to mention the Witcher series and talk about that for a little bit. And that trailer was released at San Diego Comic-Con this week. And It's Henry Cavill and it's Witcher, and yes, they recognize the video games, but they're going to be focused on the books. And so I just want to talk a little bit about that and if that'll live up to the hype. But before we get to all of that, I always like to talk about what we've been playing because it tends to vary most weeks for me. So, not
mainly just you.
Mainly just me. But what have you been playing?
You know, Robert, that's a good question. And
a loaded
question. How many years would you say that we've known each other?
Oh, I don't know. I can't even keep count anymore.
Yeah, it's been too many to count. Agreed. Well, I'm gonna say something to you.
You've never said to me before?
It's gonna shock you to your core when it comes to what games I have played.
I will hold on to my hat.
Shock you to your core, sir.
I'm waiting with bated breath.
Let me pull out the list. Sorry, there's so many. I have to pull out the list.
Oh, you wrote them down? I'm impressed.
No, I'm just pulling up my PS app. All right. Well, the two things that won't shock you to your core, of course, are Fortnite and Rocket League. Man, it's been tough this weekend for those two games because one had a double XP weekend, and then the other had that crazy mega battle event in Fortnite, that is. So I've been splitting my time pretty evenly. I did watch the event. The event was awesome. I did it in-game. I'm going to try to put up something on the website this evening, as of recording, it was 7:21, about the event and see if I can... I went into replay mode, did some screenshots. I think I did some pretty cool screenshots, to be honest, and I'm going to kind of put out a little album review of the event. But anyways, the thing that will shock you to your core, sir, I played other games this week other than Fortnite and Rocket League. Yeah,
Blasphemy.
Exactly.
Blasphemy.
Shock you to your core, sir. One of those games was Super Blood Hockey.
Oh, I was going to get that.
Oh, it's so fun. It is the most ridiculous thing. The only time you get a power play is after a fight if you win the fight.
Nice.
Because you injure the guy so much that he twitches and bleeds there for like a minute and a half or whatever it is. Unless you fatally injure him and then he's gone the whole game. And I also played Stranger Things 3, the game.
Oh, that's right. You talked about possibly playing that last week when we talked about that on the podcast.
I did. And I did play it. And another thing that might shock you to your core, sir, I completed it.
No.
Pretty much in one sitting.
No.
I played it for 10 hours straight.
Now I know you're lying to me.
Oh my gosh. I loved it. I just kept playing it and playing it and playing it. Yeah, I played the crap out of it. I had 2 days off in a row, which is very rare for me, so I played 10 hours of it on Friday.
Wow.
And just crushed it. I am 1 trophy away from the platinum. And that is because that trophy requires a second playthrough. So, but I kind of like it. It's a different kind of New Game Plus. So, like, you know, as the story progresses, you gain more people into your party, and then you finish with like 10 people in your party, 8 or 10 people. But the New Game Plus mode is elimination mode. So you start out with all those people, and then whenever one dies, it's a permadeath for that certain character. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So, and I did read online that it's like that everyone has all the abilities, because you know, like certain characters have certain abilities to progress you further through the story,
right?
But I guess in elimination mode, everybody has everybody's abilities. So yeah. So I'll play that. I don't know, relatively soon, but
well, sounds like a good time.
Yeah. I think, was there anything else? I was gonna make it 5, but then I decided not to play Days Gone.
Wow, you would have needed a list.
I know, right? Ugh.
That is ridiculous. I don't even know who you are.
I know. I'm glad I could surprise you, even though we've known each other for so long.
Yeah.
What have you been playing, Robert?
Oh, let's see. What have I been playing? I did write mine down just to be safe, because I always forget. I did fire up Sekiro again, and I am extremely rusty. Like, extremely rusty. I couldn't remember half the controls, and unfortunately I fired it up right before a boss, and so that was fun. Brutal. But I did take down the Headless Ape again. It just took me a little longer than it normally would have on New Game Plus, because I expected to run through him pretty quickly, but I died multiple times because I couldn't even remember. I couldn't remember the controls.
Yeah.
So I played that for just a little bit. I want to still platinum that. I think I want that to be I've purposely been holding off on platining any games because I want that to be my 50th platinum. And so we'll see if I have the grind in me to do that. I played Truth and Blood in VR today for about 3 hours, and I did feel a little nauseous after I got out of the VR headset because my eyes had gotten so adjusted to being in VR for 3 hours that the real world was very disorienting. I've never done.
That's why I don't have a VR headset. I think I just have too many issues with that.
Well, see, that's the thing. I've done usually like an hour at a time, and that's doable. I've never done 3 hours straight. So 3 hours straight was like very hard for me to handle.
Oh, I bet.
So I would say, work your way up to that. So I played Truth and Blood. I'm almost finished with that. It's so good, and it's so stupid. It's like playing through Snatch. Do you remember that film?
Oh. Yeah,
it's like playing through a Guy Ritchie film. It's some of the dialogue's real cheesy and campy. It's very British. It's just very, very good. And then Yakuza 0, still working on that on occasion. And then I've been playing a lot of, I don't know, some people may prefer to say vampire though. But I've been playing that. And that's Dot Nod's game that came out. You may remember them from making Life is Strange. This is the game they made right after Life is Strange. And goodness, it is just... I know people don't like the combat. It's very Dark Souls-ish, but not to that difficulty. It's just you have a stamina bar and you have to watch it and everything. And so I'm super excited to continue playing through that. I really enjoy that. I think that's really good. I don't think it's for everybody, because it is a lot of talking to NPCs too. I say it's more conversations with NPCs than it is actual fighting.
Now, is it spoken dialogue or written?
It's spoken. Okay. And you can have subtitles on, so sometimes, this is a minor gripe, sometimes what will happen is if I see the full sentences on the bottom of the screen, I'll hit square to speed through it because I don't have the patience for all that talking. Because it is a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of dialogue in this game. Sometimes, though, what happens is I notice there's a comma, and I notice that the sentence is going to go on to the next, like the words have to come across the screen. If you hit square to fast forward the dialogue, you will not see the second half of that sentence. They will just stop talking. They will stop talking, and that second half of that sentence will never appear on the screen.
Oh,
and so it's like selective speed reading for me. Sometimes I have to wait for them to finish the whole sentence. Other times, if I see the whole sentence is on the screen and there's a period at the end, I will hit the square button to move the dialogue along because it is very long in the tooth. But it is enjoyable. It's not for everybody. I love the atmosphere. I can see where people would complain about the combat or the amount of... It feels like you're doing a lot of dialogue, but it's still linear. And so though I'm making certain dialogue choices that impact maybe how a character has a relationship with me a little bit, I don't think it's ultimately going to matter in the end because it seems like a very linear story-driven game. But I do like picking the dialogue choices because that does impact how much XP you'll get out of them if you choose to like dominate or turn that or feed on that human being that you've been speaking to. And so being nice to them actually can impact the amount of XP you get.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I really like it. I'm going through a no human playthrough, though, so that's where it's a little bit more challenging.
What's that mean?
It means don't feed on any humans.
Oh, wow.
Which is possible. I mean, I'm level 10 already. I'm only in chapter 2, so it's very easy to do. And then the last thing I've been playing is actually a remaster of an old game called Mark of the Ninja. It was on sale on the PSN this week. Okay. It's normally $20. It's $9 right now. It's a stealth 2D side-scrolling game where you play as a ninja, and it's really, really good. It's got animated cutscenes, and I highly recommend that one. If you are looking for a good ninja stealth game, it's very, very good. Did you ever play Stealth Inc.?
No.
Okay. This kind of reminds me a little bit of that. It's very good, though. I would highly recommend that one as well. It's got pretty good reviews on most websites from what I've seen, too. So I've really been enjoying that smorgasbord. And that one's more one I play when I'm not in the mood for a long play. Like Yakuza, you need at least an hour to play. Vampire's the same way. You need at least an hour. Mark of the Ninja, you can go through a level in 15, 20 minutes.
Interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, those are what I've been playing, Matt. That's it.
Cool.
Yeah, so good stuff, right?
Yeah,
I think so.
For sure.
All right. So what we're going to do next is we're going to move on to what I'm going to call, in case you missed it this week, I'm just going to highlight a small snippet. It's not a whole... We're in summertime. We're near the end of the summer. Fall's coming up. There's not a whole lot of news at all, but there's just a few things I want to highlight. And I know there's one you wanted to highlight as well that I'll mention here and we can talk about if we need to. But this is just, 6 items that you may have missed this week that did actually come across as perhaps somewhat newsworthy. The first one is going to be that Blood and Truth actually has a free demo right now on the PlayStation Store. So if you have a VR headset, fire it up, go play, go check it out. And so I think it just came out on Thursday was the release of that demo. So just go check that out. I just want to mention that real quick. The other thing, and I think you may want to weigh in on this one a little bit, is Oculus wanted to trade with Sony for PSVR exclusives. Mm-hmm. And you did mention that earlier in the week when we were talking about what would we talk about this week.
Yeah.
And bigwig Jason Rubin said that his company would love to trade exclusive games with competitor Sony. And this is via Push Square and Kotaku. The Naughty Dog, former Naughty Dog employees told Kotaku that, quote, they have great stuff there that they funded and we have great stuff we've funded. And so I think he was thinking of stuff like probably like Astrobot and Blood and Truth. And that they would give us PSVR owners something in return like Lone Echo. Do you have anything you want to say about that? Any thoughts?
I think it's interesting that they would want to collaborate like that. I think it kind of, I don't know, if for some reason they do end up doing it, I feel like it kind of maybe sets a precedent going forward, that maybe they, exclusives, kind of can be shared. So I don't think it'll happen. It would be interesting to see if it did, and what the ramifications would be going forward. But yeah, I don't know. I think I really just don't know how exactly
it would work out.
It would work, yeah, and also like how, does Oculus have a game worthy enough for?
Well,
to give up the exclusives like Astrobot and.
Yeah, and that's a good question. I think Lone Echo, from what I understand, might be the one that's worthwhile. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I know that people have been talking about that one and how good it is. And so that could very well be one of those that you see traded. I think that in VR space, it's probably more likely to happen than if it was between Sony and Xbox or Sony and Nintendo. I don't think you would see them trading exclusives there. But I do think it's more likely, if it's going to happen ever, it would happen on the VR headset space, because I think that Sony recognizes that they might be frontiering and selling way more than Oculus does, but that both companies need each other to kind of make sure VR is successful and takes off.
Yeah, but given Sony's history, I don't think that they feel that way.
Oh, you don't think it'll happen? Well, I don't think they feel that way at all with the consoles. I think with the VR, they might be a little bit more lenient and willing, but yeah, I don't think we'll see it happen. I just think there's a better possibility. If there's like a 0% chance of the exclusives, this comes down to being like a 3% chance, I'd say.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on. Just 3 or 4 more that I just want to mention real quick. Trails of Cold Steel 3. I don't know if anybody's a fan of that or excited about that listens to this podcast. But Trails of Cold Steel 3 PS4 release was delayed by a month, and to make up for it, the demo is coming instead. So they're going to release a demo in September and the game in October. Now, I've never played any of those. Have you?
I have not.
They're JRPGs. I hear that they are like the definitive JRPG that you should play if you're going to play one.
I'm not going to play one.
Yeah, I know. I hear it's fantastic. I really do. I just don't know that I have the time for that.
Maybe I could do like the demo just to see what it's about.
Yeah, right. And that's probably what I'll do. I'll probably just try that demo out, and if it hooks me, maybe I'll go back and play 1 or 2. Right? They are standalones. It's like one of those things where they're standalones. You could play the other ones, from what I understand, and not be completely lost, but you're going to miss out on certain things.
Which we know that you won't do.
Well, yes, that's true in a way, because I wanted to play Judgment, which is totally unrelated to Yakuza series.
Yeah, I know. We talked about this.
Yeah, but I felt the need to play at least one Yakuza game. So I'm going to play 0, and then I'll play Kiwami, and then I'll play Kiwami 2. And then I'll probably actually skip 3 and 4, jump all the way to 5 and 6. And then jump into Judgment. Although I may jump into Judgment after 0. We'll see. Anyway, that's not here or there. So
that's a lot of games for you to play when you have such a
little amount of
glorious backlog.
I know. I counted up my backlog the other day, and I don't want to mention the number. I know the exact number now.
Oh, you know the exact number? Please tell me.
I will tell you off air. We will have a discussion about that. In fact, what I'll do is we'll have a conversation next week about how big my backlog is, maybe.
Oh, no, I think you should put up a Twitter poll or something like that. Guess your backlog number.
Yes, and maybe what I'll do is the winner I'll give away a free game.
Ooh, there you go. Yeah.
I may even give one out of my backlog. How's that? In fact, that's what I will do.
Help minimize my backlog.
If I get enough votes on how big, everybody who votes in that poll on Twitter will be automatic. All they've got to do is comment after they vote, and they will be entered to win one of the games from my backlog. I'll publish the list of my backlog, and I'll let them pick what game they want.
Wow.
How's that?
Man,
I had a dream last night that I gave away a game, and I was like, "What does that mean?" Here it is. Here it is. Actually, I gave it.
I was about to say there's some probably good games in there. I mean,
there's some very good
Red
games.
Dead 2.
Yeah.
There's probably some good stuff.
Only 10 people ever finished Red Dead 2, so that doesn't really say anything.
Fair enough.
All right, two more items, and then we'll get into one of our conversational topics I want to talk about. First, the Division 2 director asked for thoughts on a single-player story-driven Division game. This is probably the biggest piece of news I thought this week, other than one other thing I'm going to mention. He mentioned or asked, creative director Julian Garrity asked on Twitter, what would be your thoughts if it was a single-player, story-driven Division game?
I like it. I think that's a good idea.
I would love it because I like the world of the Division. I like the gameplay. I would love to delve into one character's journey because let's be honest, the guy you're playing as is very generic, right? Or girl.
Oh, for sure.
We know the background. I would love actually a prequel where everything starts to fall apart. Yeah. And you try to fight to save it, and obviously it fails, but it would be great to be in that moment. Kind of like a Fear the Walking Dead type game where you actually see the downfall rather than be in it afterwards, trying to survive it.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
All right, well, they can contact me. Ubisoft can contact me if they need ideas.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. I'm sure they'll call you soon.
Yeah. So I talked about Greedfall last week, and we talked about AA games, and I thought it was interesting, actually, that Push Square picked up an article and said, could Greedfall be the next big RPG to watch out for? And so they actually talked about how it hasn't gotten the attention it potentially deserves. I think it looks fantastic. In fact, I was thinking about doing this for the topic this week of what are 5 games that we think are under-recognized that are coming out this year. Could we think of 5 games? I can think of 3 right now. One you and I both have pre-ordered in August.
Which is?
Control.
Yeah,
I definitely think that's underlooked. Greedfall's another one. And there's a couple more that I won't talk about at the moment. But anyway, that news story popped up on Push Square, and I just wanted to highlight that because I'm going to continue to push that. I think Greedfall could be just as good as The Witcher 3 or close to it. It's not going to be that good, but I think it'll be one of those games that will surprise enough people where they'll be like, wow, this is actually really, really good. I might be wrong. We'll see. Well, because to be honest, the company that's making the developer that's making it, Spider Studio, they made Bound by Flame and Techomancer, which are really cool, but haven't really succeeded the way they should, right?
Sure.
And it's also published by Focus Home Interactive, who did Vampire, who believes in these smaller games, and I think they did a Plague Tale Innocence as well. I think they published that game as well, right? So they believe in these publishers who take risks. I shouldn't have said it's going to be it's going to be not as good as The Witcher, but I think it has the potential to be up there. So
interesting. It's a bold statement.
I know. I'll probably regret it in a month. All right. Speaking of The Witcher, well, no, we'll save that. We'll save The Witcher. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Matt, the other 2 things I wanted to mention to wrap this up, this little in case you missed it kind of segment, we're just highlighting some of the pieces of news. One was that Sony teased a load of new PS4 games ahead of its China Joy press conference on August 1st.
Ooh.
I don't know what there could be other than apparently Lost Soul Aside is probably going to show up there, as well as Monkey King Hero is back and a game called Far Side. Do any of those ring a bell to you?
No.
No, I didn't think so. For most people, they wouldn't. I will say that Monkey King Heroes Back did ring a bell to me. And it was highlighted very briefly. It looks very, very cool. It's very... if you look screenshots up of it, it looks very like the old God of War where you're fighting a giant behemoth creatures, right? It looks really good. Maybe a mix of that and Shadow of the Colossus. So, so that looks good. I'm excited to see what they reveal. I'm hoping some smaller games that are like that are interesting. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully they'll be really good, though. So I wanted to mention that. And then last but not least, and this will move us into the first little piece of conversation I want to have this week. Did you see what was the best-selling superhero game of all time as of this week?
No.
Marvel Spider-Man.
Oh, snapsicle.
Now, this is impressive if you think about it, right? It has, not only was it the fastest selling superhero game ever, it's become the best selling game in its category, period. Which means it overtook multi-platform Batman Arkham as the top selling superhero title in 10 months.
Wow. That's insane.
And here's what's insane about that, too, right? So number 1 is now Spider-Man. Number 2 is Arkham City. Number 3 is Arkham Knight. 4 and 5 are Lego games. 6 is Spider-Man the movie. 7 is Spider-Man the movie 2. Number 8, I thought was interesting. It's Injustice Gods Among Us. So they're even counting fighting games as superhero games. Arkham Asylum is 9, and Injustice 2 is 10. What I find really interesting about that is the fact that Spider-Man's a PS4 exclusive.
Yeah, exactly.
So that speaks to the power of Marvel, I think. That speaks to the power of PS4 in this gen. And I think that speaks to the power of superheroes right now. Because I think Arkham City... And this, I actually kind of wish they'd make another Batman game for this reason. I would love to see what Rocksteady would do now that Spider-Man has kind of... I don't want to say raised the bar, but kind of pushed them now to say, look what we've done. We've become the best-selling superhero game of all time.
Yeah.
I do think, and I'm sure you feel free to disagree with me on this, I think Arkham City is... Not Arkham City, I'm sorry. Yeah, Arkham City. I was thinking of Arkham Knight because I hate the tanks. But anyway, I still think the Batman games are better as a whole than Spider-Man was.
I would say yet to be seen.
I
mean, it's only one game they've put out. They've put out 3 Batman games.
Right. Well, even if I'm taking Arkham City, which I think was probably my favorite.
Right, well, that's what I mean. If you take your favorite, sure, it beats out Spider-Man. But Arkham Knight, no. The first one, maybe not so
Arkham
much.
Asylum, I think, is better than Spider-Man 2. Arkham Knight, I loved, minus the obligatory tanks. Like, I actually loved driving around in the vehicle. I loved being able to call it and drive around in it and mess around with it. I think that it's on par. I think Arkham Knight is on par with Spider-Man.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, you can feel free to disagree.
I mean, sure. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I think it could be better, could be worse.
And I don't think Spider-Man's a terrible game. I love Spider-Man. I thought it was great. I played most of the DLCs. I have to finish the last one, I think. But I think just as a whole, Arkham's just a little bit better. Anyway. Kind of leads me into the topic of Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics Avengers game. I don't know if you've been following it all this week, but at San Diego Comic-Con, they did release Avengers gameplay, and the reaction from some people was that they were not impressed. That they were not impressed.
Wonder why.
I don't know.
What do you think? What do you think is not impressed? Have you seen it?
No, it leaked, but it got taken down, if I remember correctly, so I haven't watched it. Now, they're releasing it sometime this week, so by the time this podcast is out, they're going to release the video that they released, the gameplay that they showed at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
I'm not...
Okay, so it was like an exclusive thing that they didn't release right
Correct.
away. Oh, okay.
But people did not seem too happy with it. Now, if you remember back on E3, people were not happy with it either.
Yeah.
And they were not happy with it because they felt that the character designs were very generic looking.
Sure.
And I would agree. And I wonder if, and this is where I want to kind of talk about this with you a little bit, does Avengers have an Avengers problem because of the films? Because Marvel has spent 10 years establishing excuse me, has spent 10 years establishing these characters, Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk, right, Black Widow, and establishing the Avengers. Do they have a problem where these guys are such iconic in the way that they've made themselves these characters that it's hard to look at or see anyone beyond that, particularly in a video game? And I think it's different for Spider-Man and Batman, because with Spider-Man and Batman, we have had Michael Keaton with Batman, Christian Bale, Val Kilmer, George Clooney.
I was about to say, don't forget good old George.
I wasn't going to forget him. Ben Affleck. We've had at least 4 to 5 different Batmans, right?
Yeah.
So we're used to seeing different face. And the other thing, I actually thought about this, and I know it doesn't apply necessarily with Iron Man and maybe Captain America, but a lot of times too, Captain America seems to not have his helm, his little mask on. Yeah. I wonder if it has something to do with the fact that Batman and Spider-Man both wear masks. Because I don't hear anybody complaining about the Iron Man VR game.
Yeah.
Right? But I do hear them complaining about the generic looking Avengers in the Square Enix game. I know you're not a comic book guy, but are you at all excited? Like, because you played the Arkham games, you played the Spider-Man game. Are you all excited for Avengers?
I mean, I like Square Enix. I think they put together some good stuff. I think it'll be interesting to see, what they do with it. But I don't know. I don't think it's definitely not a day one buy for me. I'm not like clamoring out to get it.
Why is that though? Because didn't you buy Spider-Man day one?
I did.
And did you buy some of the Arkham games day one?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. So what's different about this one?
I don't really give a crap about Avengers, maybe.
Okay.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I've seen most of the movies.
Right.
If not all of them. And it was great. It was a great kind of thing that they did, and, over that many years to kind of, write things properly and kind of know their vision ahead of time and where they wanted to go with it. And the movies were great. But I don't know. I just don't really... Maybe it has to do with the fact that cinematically it's complete.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So they've already completed the story in my mind. So what are they going to do differently? What is this going to show that isn't more of the same?
I get what you're saying.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, if you think about, the Batman, it's always, they're rebooting Batman again, apparently, with, Robert Pattinson, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so, and Spider-Man, good lord, how many times are they going to remake Spider-Man?
But, that's true, too. But with the games, I feel like I've never worried about how they cross over with the films or how they tell stories similar or different to the films.
Well, yeah, sure.
Think about that. Let's be honest. We had 3 Arkham games where 4 actually, all 4 I think had the Joker in them in some respect, right?
Yeah.
So, and we didn't get tired of that.
Yeah, no, because the Joker is the ultimate Batman villain. It's weird not to have him in a Batman game, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, do you think that maybe the Avengers just has a villain problem? If it's not Thanos?
Yeah, to a certain extent. Because I don't know. Maybe it's just that there's so many of them, and I don't know, maybe I just don't know enough about their villains.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I love Joker. I grew up... Or you know what? Maybe it has to do with what you grew up on.
Hmm.
Me and we grew up in an age where there was that Spider-Man cartoon and the Batman cartoon.
Now, okay, so I'm going to challenge you with that then. If there was an X-Men game in the vein of Avengers announced tomorrow where you could switch between X-Men.
100%.
Okay. So you think nostalgia plays a big part of this for you?
Yeah, I think to a certain extent it definitely plays a part of it. Like, I mean, like I said, looking back, like that's the stuff you kind of grew up on and you grew up watching, so you know those villains, you know what I mean? Like even in, I think it was Arkham City, there was a couple villains I just didn't know, but it was kind of cool to kind of find out who they were and their little story, because I mean, you didn't really like, I mean, I think there was a lot more that you could find that weren't actually affecting you. You know what I mean? Like you could find out who they were, but you didn't have to fight them or anything. Okay. Like
I get what you're saying.
Like the Calendar Man.
Yeah, the lesser known villains. Yeah. So I guess maybe that goes back to my original point. Then, you know, is this an established thing where Batman and Spider-Man and even the X-Men, for example, have had multiple films, multiple movies, multiple cartoons where it feels like they've been rebooted or altered enough times that we don't have an issue going, oh, okay, they're going to make a Spider-Man game. We've also had several Spider-Man and Batman games, right?
Right.
Whereas Avengers, it's like, well, I'm used to the cinematic universe. And so I wonder if Marvel's actually accidentally crippling its own brand, where people have too much of an expectation going in that this is what these characters should look like, or this is what this should feel like as a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
And we don't have that problem with Batman or Superman. Well, Superman, there hasn't been a good Superman game. But anyway, Batman or Spider-Man because of the amount of times we've had.
You say there hasn't been a good Superman game?
Yeah. Not that I can remember. I mean, I guess Superman 64 for some people is iconic.
Yeah.
But
yeah, the other thing is, I don't know, is there another Avengers video game?
No.
Has it ever been made?
I don't believe so, no.
Yeah, other than Lego.
Yeah, Lego. Yeah, the Lego games, I guess.
Different. Yeah, that's completely different, though. Yeah.
So that's just something that's caught my attention as we go into this, because, you know, if they release that trailer, and I'm kind of I've been watching a little bit of the Comic-Con that somebody filmed naturally, right?
Right.
And from what I can tell, it looks very much in the vein of Arkham or Spider-Man. It looks very much like those games, right? It looks like that style of combat and melee and using your powers and flying around and dodging enemies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I do wonder, again, the character models just aren't as impressive, I thought, as I would think they would be, because Marvel or Avengers is such a big deal. It's kind of weird for you to not have these super impressive character models.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. It really is hard to say. I mean, you're the fact that you've been with these characters for 10 years now, and then they kind of don't look that way. It is kind of jarring. Mm-hmm. You know? You're like, well, that's not Scarlett Johansson. That's not Hemsworth. You know what I mean? Like, so maybe there's like a disconnect.
Yeah. I'll be curious to see, and by the time this gets out, I'm sure there'll be more of a reaction to the panel, because I'm sure not everyone has watched that footage. But I'd be curious to see.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen it.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's going to be. I want to correct myself from earlier. It's not going to be released to the public for another month.
Ooh, wow.
So now this is funny because, okay, we were just talking about that, but Marvel Ultimate Alliance has just come out, right, on the Nintendo Switch, and that has received incredible reception so far. But that also is much more in the vein of cartoony games. You know, so if you look at Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, it is very much more. First off, it's a ton of Marvel characters. Second off, it's also, you know, much more in a cartoon like vein of gameplay.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think people are a little bit more warmer on the reception of that for that reason. Whereas this this is going very much for the Spider-Man Arkham look, that realistic feel. And I don't know that it's, I do think it's kind of working against them.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And so maybe it's the art style.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. Like with the Marvel Ultimate Alliance, there's so many characters. I mean, you know, I see Wolverine on the front cover of that. I mean, their X-Men aren't in Avengers. You know what I mean? So,
well, within the cinematic universe, right? Yeah, in comic books,
sure.
You know, there's some crossover and teaming
right,
up.
Of course.
Yeah, it's interesting because I do think that our Ultimate Alliance actually probably does a better job of being right now the kind of game that you would expect from a Marvel Avengers game than what the Avengers is going to do next year. And so I really want to really love that Avengers game when it comes out next year, but I'm a little concerned that it's going to not set the world on fire.
I would probably have to agree with you on that one.
And so I'll be very curious to see how it shakes out.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so here's a question. Just a random question that just popped in my head. What, out of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe that we've seen, who would you like them to focus in on and make a brand new
IP?
Like, yeah, well, not necessarily IP, but yeah, but like a single hero focused game,
player game out of the cinematic universe.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I mean, yeah, out of the characters that were in, not necessarily, you know, starring the people, but I mean, out of the characters. I know what you're saying. Yeah.
So in other words, no, X-Men's not, because I did tweet out a week ago that I want a brand new X-Men co-op game.
Oh, I would love that.
Like, I remember the arcade game and how much I loved that. I want a new X-Men one. Now, if I can't have X-Men, and I can't have somebody that's a standalone like Venom, because I don't know if you remember Maximum Carnage. Do you remember Maximum Carnage on the Genesis? That was a great game too. If I can't have those, and I already got Spider-Man, if I had to go with the cinematic universe, I actually would like to see them do something with somebody like Doctor Strange.
That's exactly who I was
like,
thinking.
You could do it like Portal, right? Where you can teleport around. You can open up portals. Literally, it could be Portal with a superhero.
Yeah.
And I think that Benedict Cumberbatch and Doctor Strange are not so solidified in my mind that if you made a realistic Doctor Strange game, single-player game, I would not be adverse to going, ugh, why doesn't that look like Benedict Cumberbatch?
Right.
Now, that might change in a few years when they release the second movie, but that's ideally what I would love to see. So there's my answer.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of torn between that or Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, that would be good, but I think Telltale kind of learned their lesson with that one. Because they had that story-driven one. And I read a lot of reviews where it was very jarring for it not to be Chris Pratt and not to be, and that's the problem, right? Marvel has done such a good job of casting characters. It's very hard in a more realistic style game to look at them and go, that's not Chris Pratt. That's not Hemsworth, like you said. Whereas something like Ultimate Alliance is really easy to do because it's so cartoony and there's so many characters that we don't see in the cinematic universe yet that it's easy to go, oh, that's cartoony Thor, you know? Cartoon comic book looking Thor can look like whatever he wants to look like.
Yeah.
You know, Doctor Strange can look like whatever he wants to look like, but you know,
what if they made it cartoony? Like, I'm thinking like
Borderlands?
Ratchet and Clank. Like Ratchet and Clank, kind of.
Yeah, I could see that.
Like that kind of like silliness.
I would see that. Well, again, like even if they made like Ultimate Alliance, but you know, if they want to take maybe that art style, I would be fine with that too.
Yeah, because I mean, I was looking at the cover of Ultimate Alliance, and both, I think one of the reasons they popped in my mind, but both Star-Lord and Doctor Strange are on the cover.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things where you're right. You're like, it's cartoony, so you don't like, oh no, that's not these characters who've been playing them for years.
Yeah. And I think that if we had multiple Avengers movies with multiple Thors, multiple, Iron Man, multiple other characters that have... Now, we've had multiple Hulks. Now, Hulk also transforms, right? And so actually, when I watched that San Diego Comic-Con leaked footage, Hulk's and Bruce Banner's look is the one that bothers me the least. But it's because, he's a monster, right? He changes form. But even when he's Bruce Banner, I've seen so many different versions of Bruce Banner, from Edward Norton to Mark Ruffalo, that it doesn't bother me. Whereas, like, Hemsworth and Iron Man, I think, isn't a problem. And I think that's why Iron Man VR, even though it's not getting a lot of attention, will fare well, because you're becoming Iron Man. It's first person. And Iron Man wears a suit, and I think it's a face problem. I think it is a facial recognition problem when it's realistic. So
yeah, no, that makes sense.
All right, I think we've beat that to death. But I think we've covered good ground with that. I think we've solved what the problem is. Yeah. Now
it's it's Disney's fault.
It is Disney.
They've done such a good job of everything.
They've done such a job of bringing those characters to life, it's going to be very hard for people to accept anything else at first. Yeah. So just like, I don't know if you saw, Natalie Portman will be the first female Thor, and that's a little jarring to me because she's of her role already in the movies to transform her into female Thor, but we'll see how that goes. All right, Matt, let's move on to the other piece of conversation I wanted to talk about a little bit. It's been rumored, flying around for the past week or so, about August PS Plus games and what they could be. And according to Glitched Africa, 2 PS4 titles have shown up as free on the PlayStation Store with the little Plus logos. Now, I want you to tell me how you feel about these two, because I know a lot of people were upset about this month's, even though Horizon Chase Turbo, I think, is an excellent 90s arcade racing game. People were also upset about... people were upset about Pez being there in the first place, and then there were people like you who were upset when Pez got taken off and replaced with Detroit. And so I feel like this was a lose-lose for Sony, even though they tried to rectify it. Yeah. I feel like next month is going to be even more grief for them if these stay true. Star Wars Battlefront 2 and EA Sports UFC 3.
It's an EA-packed month.
It is. And it's also, I never bought Battlefront 2 because I enjoyed the first one, but I felt a little burned out on it.
Yeah, I mean, we played the demo.
Yeah.
Or the beta.
The beta, yep.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it.
Yeah, and so...
But I like that there's a campaign.
Yeah, and I think that if that becomes free, I won't care about the multiplayer. I'll probably just play the campaign.
Yeah.
Because
I'd have to agree.
I'm actually much more excited for the Fallen Order in the fall. And so I'll be very curious to see what this is like, because I remember how Battlefront 2 had a lot of issues when it came out with microtransactions and a lot of issues with loot box stuff. And it did not sell well at all. Yep. And it did not seem to be an upgrade from Battlefront 1 at all in any way.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, I think if they do it, I think it's going to have to include a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, agreed.
It's going to have to include, like...
Now, what about UFC 3? How do you feel about that?
Garbage.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I've played them like way, way back in the day. Or no, I'm thinking of the boxing games. Never mind. But either way, I don't know. I'm just not... Realistic fighting games aren't my thing.
Right.
I like the over-the-top craziness, like Injustice or...
yes.
Or even like wrestling games. Any of the wrestling games. While they are realistic in the fact that they are people, I feel like to a certain extent they're over the top. You know?
I would agree.
I mean, I guess they've gotten more realistic, I guess, in more recent years, but like, you know, you think back to like the N64 days and those kind of cartoony, you know, those cartoony wrestling games I think were some of the best wrestling games ever.
Yeah. I agree.
But yeah, I don't know. So I mean, I'll probably still throw him in my thing if I remember. Because I don't know if I told. I mean, I think I mentioned to you this week, but I completely forgot to add the June games to my library. Mm-hmm. So they are games that I will not play because I'm not going to.
But you own Detroit. Oh no, I'm thinking July. I'm sorry, I'm thinking July.
Yeah, that's July. Yeah, no, I'm talking about June, like the Handsome Collection, the Borderlands Handsome Collection, and then the Sonic Mania.
That's a shame because Borderlands would have been good.
I completely forgot. I think part of the thing for me was there was so much hype and confusion about what games were coming in July, and also the fact that it happened July 2nd. I mean, how long has it been?
Where we had it almost the beginning of the month fall correctly?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. When actually fallen like that. I mean, you know, if you look at the calendar, I think it's been months since it hasn't been like a week or two into the next month.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah. June was the 4th. I mean, that's not super great. I mean, May was the 7th. That's like, you know, full weekend. I guess April was the 2nd. But still, yeah, it's like one of those things. Sometimes it falls in such a way that, you know, you're not getting them until...
Right at the 7th or 8th of the month.
Yeah, exactly. So you have that time.
Yeah, I don't know. That's... Well, we'll see what happens this month, because I don't know. I just don't know that that's going to be any good this month, if that's what they stick with.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean... I'd be okay with Battlefront and something else if they replaced UFC.
Yes, agreed.
It'd be weird to, I don't know. I mean, those are both, I guess, AAA games, but I feel like it'd be weird for them to both be big EA games.
Yes, particularly since they're not games that I think make a huge splash or have a huge audience. Battlefront 2 obviously had a big audience, but not nearly like the first one.
Right. And I think there'll still be gripe of like, oh, these aren't, you know, everyone wants AAA games, but there'll be gripes that these aren't good games.
Yes, agreed.
You know what I mean?
Agreed. So we'll see what happens. I hope they'll switch it up, but if they don't, they don't. We'll survive. Yeah. I got enough of a backlog, so I guess I can survive without it.
You sure do.
All right. The last thing I just wanted to mention briefly, and you just watched it, was the Witcher Netflix series is coming, and so it's.
You almost said Witcher 3.
I almost did. Well, because I was thinking Witcher 3, right? And so it is loosely connected to gaming. I think a lot of people who have played The Witcher 3 are super excited about. Some people who haven't even read the books or played the game are super excited about this. You watched the trailer just before we got started.
I did.
What were your thoughts? Because you've played some of The Witcher 3.
It. I have, yeah. I never got through it completely, mainly because I played so much Gwent, and then I started playing other things. I mean, I did. I loved Gwent. It was so fun. Yeah. I don't know. But, yeah. I think it looks great, honestly. I think it looks like it's going to be a really good Netflix series. I hope for them it's kind of like their Game of Thrones.
I think it will be.
Yeah. I think it has a nice mix of, medieval and magic. They kind of bring in a decent fan base for both. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fantastic in that regard.
Yeah.
It looks, what I like about it is they are pulling from the books, and the books are different from the games, but it looks like there's a little bit of influence of the games in there as well, and so I think it should please everybody.
Yeah.
And I had serious doubts about Henry Cavill as Geralt, but I will say that the more I see of it, the more I'm happy that he got chosen. I know I read an article today. He went through and asked repeatedly for his agent to make sure he got an audition for that. And he got to audition for it. Before they even confirmed it, it was when it was being rumored, he demanded that his agent make sure he stayed on top of it. Because he had his version of Geralt in mind, and he wanted to make sure it happened. And he wanted to make sure he became the Witcher. And what I loved about it was they let him read through, and they still went through 207 other people before they decided on him.
I mean, I could see why.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a big name, and he was just Superman.
Right.
You know what I mean? And what did we just talk about the most in this episode? Facial recognition.
Yep.
And being able to take yourself out of the fact that these are these characters or not.
Yes.
So, I mean, I get it. I get that it would take them that long to decide.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think it will be their Game of Thrones, and I think it will be big. It will probably be the only reason I don't cancel Netflix this fall. Just saying. All right.
Are you a Stranger Things fan?
I'm a huge Stranger Things fan. Yeah.
Okay. Have you seen? You've seen season 3?
Oh yeah.
Right?
Binge watched it.
Yeah.
Pulled my family into it.
I binge watched. I binge watched the season, and then I binge played the game.
Yeah, I love it, and the post-credit scenes. I won't say anything, but the post-credit scenes at the end of season 3 imply a lot about season 4.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that's good. I'm glad that we can agree that The Witcher looks good. I cannot wait for it. I am super pumped. So we'll see what happens with that. Now, to wrap things up as we always do, Matt, I think we should cover what games are coming out this week in See You Soon.
Oh, see you soon!
All right, so this is See You Soon. It's a short week, but it's actually an important week depending on who you're a fan of. You may find something for you this week. There's some real trash and some real gems. So, let's just go through them all and we can decide which is which later.
Oh, I'm starting with a gem.
Excellent, you can start.
Are you ready for it? Conga Master Go! PS Vita, digital out 7/24. The dance floor fills, the line gets longer. Come on down, it's time to conga! Shake your virtual hips to the ridiculously fun arcade action of Conga Master, as everyone fights to make the longest conga line possible. No rhythm required. Anyone can conga!
Very nice. All right. Now, I heard this one. I think this is one that got censored a little bit on PS4 and is not censored on PC. It's called Date Alive, Rio Reincarnation. The story begins 30 years after a series of space quakes that were caused by spirits. Shido encounters one and learns that he has the ability to seal away a spirit's powers. Shido is determined to save the world and the spirits with the power of love. Experience new date endings in event CGs in Rio Reincarnation.
Ooh, fun. Mm-hmm. All right. Elia, PS4, digital out 7/25. In 2073, Earth was struck by a horrid childhood disease, and Elia's husband, Ethan, joined an expedition to colonize Solace, a habitable exoplanet, to save humanity from extinction. 13 years later, Elia joins a recovery mission to investigate the fate of the expedition. What follows is a wondrous journey through space.
All right, Fantasy Strike. Fantasy Strike is a colorful fighting game where fantasy meets martial arts. It focuses on depth and strategy rather than difficult execution. It's designed for tournament play, but also to welcome you to the genre if you haven't played other fighting games before. Online play uses the excellent GGPO networking technology. That
Interesting.
I guess.
All right. Fear of Traffic. Yeah, you heard that right. PS4 digital out 725. With its colorful world and a magical soundtrack, your mission will be to find the way out, avoiding roadblocks, animals, odd objects on the way, and dramatic accidents with other drivers. You can try to ramp up your score by finding hidden collectibles in every level.
Yep.
What a silly concept for a driving game.
Hoggy 2, PS4 and PS Vita, digital cross-buy. Hoggy 2 is a classic platformer with more than 200 levels. The pink slime named Hoggy is back, and a whole new wonderful adventure awaits. Except this time around, Hoggy isn't on his own, as Hogatha is keen to join him, and the two must work together to rescue their slime mold children from the evil moon men that kidnapped them.
Wow, that looks pretty good. All right, Mighty Switch Force Collection. PS4 digital out 725. Switch up the fun with 4 games in one. As cybernetic peacekeeper officer Patricia Wagoon. No, just kidding. Wagon. You'll use their platforming skills, puzzle-solving abilities, and special level-altering siren helmet to protect the people of Planet Land and smash enemies into the screen. Interesting.
Sure. Robbie Swifthand and the Orb of Mysteries. Robbie Swifthand and the Orb of Mysteries is a 2D platformer with unique boss fights accompanied by groovy and mystifying music. Plan your every move and outsmart the traps that are lurking in the temple, or get dissected in hilarious ways. Experience rage and satisfaction in this hardcore platformer.
Ooh, that's right up your alley.
Maybe.
All right, up next we got Saber VR, PSVR digital. In the future, the UN bans the research and development of killer robots. No AI can terminate a human life. These AI are repurposed into human-controlled, state-of-the-art weaponized drones. High-tech military corporations race to create mechanized animals called Saber, synthetic animal bio-remote entities.
Well, if that's not up your alley, Smoots Summer Games. Get the gold medal. Play athletic events from your sofa. Prepare yourself for the next season. Smoot Summer Games is a sports arcade game for 1 to 4 players where you can play 18 athletics events. Play with your favorite Smoot character in practice, special challenge, and championship game modes.
Ooh. All right, up next, Songbird Symphony. PS4 digital out 725. A heartwarming journey of discovery. As orphaned chick, Burb, sets off to find his true origins. Follow this cheerful little bouncing bird who revels in singing, and guide him through this magical journey of stunning pixel art and gorgeous animation that shapes itself to your musical interactions.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Next up, Tetsumo Party. It's Tetsumo Party time. Help sumo warriors win in a hilarious competition. Control their arms and legs to fit the incoming bamboo wall, or drop out in the most ridiculous way. Riddle me this. What do sumo, walls, and dancing have in common? The answer is all these elements formed Tetsumo Party. So that's like that Japanese game show where they have to, like, the wall's coming at them and they have to, like, fit through the wall correctly. You ever see those?
Oh, yeah, I think I know what you mean. All right, War Groove.
I've heard quite a bit of it about this one.
Digital. Oh yeah. Take to the battlefield with War Groove, a strategy game for up to 4 players. Choose your commander and wage turn-based war on battling factions. Design and share maps, cutscenes, and campaigns with easy-to-use editors and in-depth customization tools. Interesting.
Yeah, I've heard. I don't know where or how, but I've heard about that one. So it, that might have an audience there, I guess is the word I'm looking for. All right, here we go. Wolfenstein Cyberpilot, PSVR digital and retail. Wolfenstein Cyberpilot brings virtual reality to the revolution against the Nazis. Paris, 1980. You're the best hacker in town. Your mission? Aid the French resistance by taking control of a powerful Nazi war machine. Saddle up, Cyberpilot. You're one of us now.
Ooh, fun. All right, not to be outdone, Wolfenstein Youngblood, PS4 digital retail out $7.26. Wolfenstein Youngblood is the first modern co-op Wolfenstein adventure. 19 years after the events of Wolfenstein 2, BJ's twin daughters, Jess and Soph Blaskowitz, are forced into action. Wolfenstein Youngblood features the most open-ended Wolfenstein experience to date. Wow. I mean, what do you think, Rob? Think we could do that? Think we could play a first modern co-op Wolfenstein adventure together?
I would love to do that. I'm super excited about Wolfenstein Youngblood. So, and it's if I remember correctly, the standard version of that is $29.99 on the store. Wow. And so you're getting another, Wolfenstein game. I don't know how good it'll be for less than $30 or right at $30.
Yeah.
So that might be something, if you enjoyed the other ones, it's worth checking out. Because, it's basically like an expansion almost is what I feel like it's going to be.
Yeah, it's $30 on Steam, so I would imagine it would be $30 everywhere.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw $30 in the store.
Yep.
All right.
PS4, Xbox One, all $30. It's pretty good.
Yeah. And then they have a $40 edition that gives you some, miscellaneous stuff that you really don't need, so...
Yeah.
All right. That is going to wrap it up for this week. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for chatting with us, listening to us. You didn't really chat with us. You listened to us. Remember,
they could have been chatting with us.
They could have been, and actually,
we just didn't hear them.
Our podcast hosting service asked if anybody would be interested in doing live episodes, testing out their service for live episodes, and I put our name in, so we may be doing a live episode where people can interact with us during that. And so I'll let people know on the usual social media if we get selected for that.
Cool.
All right. That's all I've got. Remember, you can find us everywhere that you listen to podcasts, pretty much. And if you can't find us where you listen to podcasts, let us know, and I'll make sure that we get there. But... please leave us reviews. Please share us. We appreciate it. Please interact with us on Twitter. We enjoy that as well. And that's all I've got, my friends. You got anything else over there?
No, I just want a reminder to people to tweet at Rob for this poll about his backlog.
Yeah. Do it. I will set up that poll this week, and I'll run it all week.
Sweet.
All right. Until next time, game on.
Game on. Youngblood, outro music, Wolfenstein, killing those Nazis. Woo!
That was pretty 80s.
I feel like it was, yeah. I feel like that's kind of that's the vibe that the cover gives me.
I like it. All right.